I've noticed that too.
Yeah. So hello, everyone. Here is Claudia from Nourish by Claudia, sharing the space with the lovely friend, colleague, clinical psychotherapist Jacqueline Byrne to talk about self-care and complementary therapies in recovery, part 2. If you missed on our first video, which was amazing, and Jacqueline shares so much about how to use essential oils in recovery, make sure that you watch part 1. You can find it on our YouTube channel, on Jacqueline Instagram page, and also on the Recover from HA support group. But before I go ahead and start talking even more, welcome back, Jacqueline. How are you today?
Thank you, Claudia. I'm so happy to be here. I'm a little under the weather, so I've got my tea nice and handy to keep things under control. But I'm so glad to be able to speak more about this. I think you and I were both struck with how quickly the time went just focusing on essential oils. There was so much to say, but there's a wealth of what's available for supporting eating disorder recovery, HA recovery, beyond that, which I'm really excited to detail more with you today.
Yeah, likewise. And I'm looking forward to share a couple of the tips that were instrumental for my recovery, for most of my clients as well. But before we go on and we do so, can you just share us an example of how someone could use essential oils during their recovery? Because that's something that we touched upon on our last video, but I saw also a couple of reels that you created on Instagram where you were actually using the essential oils. So if someone is interested and is watching this video for the very first time, how could you bring in the essential oils into the recovery journey in a day-to-day life, really?
I think succinctly, the most powerful way is to set intention with essential oils so that you associate a meaning with a particular aroma. And then using that aroma, I love to just drip the oil into the palm of my hand, rub my hands together and just place them over my mouth and nose and deeply inhale, or even just resting them on my body so that there's the sense of a compress of the fragrance against my skin. Is deeply soothing, and what's represented in that is the biophysical effects that the oil will have and the respiratory response that we will have, so that we'll actually start breathing differently, and that becomes something that's therapeutic in itself. But also the very act of bringing that oil into your way of working with yourself is a game changer. It's a shift in how you're sitting within your day and within your story. You're really putting yourself in a position of agency so that you're deciding how what you do next will hold meaning for your recovery, for your life. So it's such a simple, very accessible act that can represent so much, and so much more comes from that. When we take these actions, we tend to be inspired to do more, and then things really start to change.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but also our nose has the strongest memory. So for example, if we're like smelling some warm milk, we get sent back to when we were 5 or 6 and when we had a cup of milks every single night before going to sleep. And it's like a hug from the inside. So it's also a way that we can use the essential oils by just reminding us of very positive episodes in our life.
Exactly. And that's why if you set an association with the oil, like this oil is even going to be my recovery, or it could be this is about vitality, or this is for fertility, or this is self-love, very quickly it becomes the meaning of that smell for you. So even 3 days later, you smell that, even from another source, your mind will take you straight to, oh, that's self-love. That's right. That's what I'm trying to work on right now. That's what I'm bringing with me. Have it in your handbag and have that reminder there all through your day. It's powerful.
Yeah, I made myself a blend for my studio, so the place where I work from, and it's a blend that I don't use outside the studio. So I don't use it on myself. It's just something that I use for my desktop and also on my desk, on the piece of paper that I use during the day. And whenever I step in, it sends me to a place of empowerment, empathy, and also opportunities. And I really love to step into the studio because I'm already expecting to smell the aroma. And sometimes I also find myself not having the energy. Like, for example, we were just chatting before, and both of us have been pretty much under the weather over the past couple of weeks. It's winter here in Sydney and it's pretty cold. Lots of germs are having parties around. And sometimes when you're not well, maybe you don't have the energy to show up and working and doing the things. But for me specifically, it happens that whenever I smell that aroma, I get the energy. I get sent into a place of, as I said before, empowerment, and I want to be there for my clients. I want to be there to serve the women that are in my world. So I think that essential oils are very powerful and can be used also outside the recovery journey, also when it comes to relationship, work, health, and wealth in general.
I'm so glad you said that. Yes, yeah, they don't expire. Their usefulness goes on and on. Can I ask what your blend is, or is that a secret formula?
Oh, no, it's not a secret formula at all. It's just that I blended it a few weeks ago. So I know that I place inside some mandarin, some bergamot, and then I'm sure that I'm not saying the words correctly anyway. And then I think that there was some hint of tamarind. I'm just looking at the bottle, just seeing if I wrote it down, but I didn't.
Amazing.
Yeah, but it's a very
like a citrus wonderland.
Yeah, very warm, very nice and cozy for winter time. So I may need to consider to switch it up for summertime. But right now, and a cinnamon, a drop of cinnamon. Everything Christmas.
Oh, that's wonderful. I can smell it from here.
Absolutely. And what's your favorite essential oil?
Oh, I do. The citrus range is very dear to my heart. I love even just wild orange, just the simplicity. Mandarin, I love. I do love spearmint and peppermint as well, especially if I need refreshment, re-energizing. And cinnamon, just copying everything you said, but cinnamon is just so deeply warming for me. It's just like, it's like the feeling of being next to a fireplace. It's so soothing and rigorous in its warmth. I really appreciate it. I use it sparingly. I always seem to accidentally get some in my eyes somehow whenever I use cinnamon. It's potent, but it's beautiful. Definitely.
And funny that you said that, because I have the peppermint here with me. I don't want to disclose the brand just in case, but whenever I need a pick-me-up, it's always sitting next to me. And that's something that I also used a lot in the recovery journey, because it was a very quick reminder of, I got this. I can do this. A very quick burst of energy and I can get back on track. So, delicious. Delicious.
Love it.
Energy in my lungs. You actually mentioned expiration. Do essential oils expire?
Yes, so metaphorically not, their use is eternal, but the essential oils, probably more accurate to say best before date would be applicable. So they're not going to be harmful. It's not an expiry like a food product that could become dangerous after a certain point. But you'll notice that the aroma won't be as condensed, and sometimes the substance can get a bit thicker. It's harder to make usefulness of the oil. But if you do, most oils will have an expiry date on the bottom of them, and it would be safe to use them beyond that. It just won't be in its full potency. The aroma might not be quite as strong, and it's usually, depending on the oil, at least a couple of years. Some will last 5 or 6 years.
Okay, so for everyone listening, Jacqueline has a wealth of knowledge in terms of essential oils, and you also use them and sell them in your clinical practice, if I'm correct. So if you have questions, please go back to video number 1, because Jacqueline, you have shared so much about essential oils, and I got so into it after doing the video with you. But definitely also get in touch with Jacqueline, because she can really help you to find out what's the best essential oil for a specific situation. And now, shall we also talk about different complementary therapies that can be very useful during the recovery journey? Fantastic. Absolutely. What is the first thing that comes to mind?
Oh, there's a lot. Thinking about our conversation today, there were so many. It's really beautiful how many modalities do exist, and some are quite bespoke. Some you'll just stumble upon and it will be the right fit for you. There really is a smorgasbord of options. that we won't be able to cover today, but something that was most helpful for me personally, and I think can be particularly important for people that have struggled with body image distress or difficulty connecting to their body, histories of dissociation, is yoga.
Yeah.
Yoga is medicine.
Of course.
It's incredible, and there is a lot of research. There's now a very strong evidence base on yoga being effective as part of an eating disorder body image recovery plan. And part of that, if it's trauma-informed yoga that's taught by someone who is trained in a way that is sensitive to what these experiences can be, what I understand is most powerful in that practice is that it helps people reconnect to their body, the observation of their body, moving through asana or the inquiry into how their body is feeling. Having that supported practice experientially for the duration of a yoga class is hard to find in any other form in the way that we tend to live in the modern world. Like, we're not encouraged to inquire repeatedly or notice how our body's moving or notice how we feel, whether something sits right in our body versus the body next to us, and to just herald our experience as our guide rather than an objective criteria that we're trying to accomplish, KPIs that we're trying to meet. Yoga is something that can be profoundly changing for people.
Interesting that you say that, because we've started running yoga inside the period comeback protocol. So we have a wonderful woman that she used to suffer from an eating disorder and hypothalamic amenorrhea. She fully recovered. She became my yoga instructor, and now she's offering free classes inside the HA community. And it has been wonderful, because most of the women that come to me, for example, they come from a background of training and over-exercising, and sometimes they find great difficulties in stepping into the yoga mat, because that's their opportunity to slow down and really connect with their mind and body. And that's possibly something that they have tried so hard to avoid for decades. Yoga has been instrumental in my recovery, even on those days when I didn't really want to be in the yoga mat. And something that I used to do back in the days was simply flipping the legs up the wall and stay there with my hands on my belly, tuning in with my breath, and switching from sympathetic response into parasympathetic response. And that's actually a very useful tips for women that are trying to get pregnant, because once again, your body can enter the rest and digest phase instead of always being into fight and flight. I remember that we did some prenatal yoga classes together as well, but have you ever spent any time with your legs up the wall?
I must say I have, Claudia, and it is so restorative. I think I'm glad you touched on that, because it's not necessarily that moving into yoga, if it's not familiar to you, is going to be a blissful experience. Sometimes it's really confronting. So please don't think if you try it or even do one of the classes in the HA group that it doesn't kind of gel straight away. That resistance can be from how unfamiliar it is to have your way of moving be body-centric rather than, again, being guided from ideals outside of yourself. Please do try it, and try different styles, try different instructors. It can, when you find the right fit, it can be very instrumental in helping the mind-body connection.
Absolutely. Lots of women that do experience anxiety when they start a yoga practice, because once again, it's very unfamiliar. There is an example that I've been using lately with my clients. And when you clasp your hands, you tend to place one thumb on top of the other very naturally. And when you switch the thumb, it feels pretty unfamiliar. And that's basically what happens when we try to do something new, when we bring in something that is uncomfortable and not familiar inside our life. But for example, with the thumbs, if we can keep switching them up once again by repetition each and every day, you are going to find out that it doesn't feel unfamiliar after a while. Same thing with the yoga practice. And I'm so glad that you said that some instructors are not going to be a match made in heaven, like some counselors, some psychologists, some nutritionists. They're not a match made in heaven. still, it's really important to try, experience new people, see what other practices look like, and find something that it's the right fit. And I have been going to many different yoga classes and many different instructors before finding my studio. And once I found it, I never left it, which is beautiful.
It's
So
such a gift.
we mentioned essential oils, yoga. What else is coming into your mind in terms of complementary therapies in recovery?
Something else that I think can be a real gift at the right time in body image recovery, eating disorder recovery, is massage. And it's, I guess, we don't tend to think about it maybe in this context, but also being able to be receptive to care could also be challenging. Like, similar to yoga, the massage might not be easy for someone to have no distraction for an hour, to have to lie still more or less for an hour can be really confronting, but there is opportunity in that as well for healing and growth. But body work, having someone support your body and touch you with care and notice the patterns that will show up in your body. A good massage therapist will be able to read a lot from your body and feed that back to you if you want to hear it. That can be also an invitation to reflecting on your body and inquiring on your patterns and your habits and making change from there if you're ready to. And then on a physiological level, it is also so restorative in terms of balancing the nervous system, coming back to the parasympathetic state into relaxing. It can improve sleep and even shift hormones from the outcome of a massage. It can help us essentially use more of the relaxing, feel-good hormones to have them released in our system. A beautiful massage therapist as well, I think, can be a special relationship. And if that was something that was diarized weekly, fortnightly, monthly, that was possible for you, that can be such a beautiful thing to do.
I love when you said massage, because I was thinking massage, and you channel it out. Definitely, I think the massage can be useful. And if I can add something else on top of it, not so much remedial massage, but more of a form of relaxation. So relaxing aromatherapy type of massage. Because sometimes when you go for a remedial massage, the therapists that tend to talk, there is some pain involved, and it's more focused on healing the body after training or after walking too much. And the sympathetic nervous system cannot really settle during that time frame. So challenging yourself to go for a different form of massage, different type of it, can be something useful during the recovery journey. I specifically didn't try a relaxing massage until 5 years ago. That was the first time that I had my first relaxing massage, and it was amazing. Why did I want a deep tissue before?
Never look back. Yes, thank you for clarifying it. It's so important to say, Claudia, as well, of course, because it can be almost more like a physiotherapy treatment.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily like helpful and for other reasons, but not to the outcome that we're talking about today.
Yeah. And another form of complementary therapies to me was, well, it's not really, I don't know if you can classify it as a complementary therapist, but being in nature, meaning there is no need to spend any money. There is no need to meet another person. There is no need to go to a studio. But I think that is still very important to mention, because when our brain is cluttered, when there is so much going on, when we can't even breathe, when we cannot settle ourselves, taking ourselves away from a specific situation and surround ourselves of nature can be extremely helpful. I have a beautiful client that whenever she feels anxious, she goes to the zoo, because she gets reminded every single time that there is something more powerful than her. There is something bigger than her out there, and she's definitely not alone. And the human species is not the only one on planet Earth. So when she shared that with me, I think that was a beautiful reminder for all of us. There is something much bigger than us, and we can experience that only when we are in nature. And is that a practice that you have for yourself? Do you manage to spend any time in nature on a monthly basis?
Yeah, I must say I don't pre-organize it. That's something I'm sure would be beneficial, but I definitely notice it when I end up being at the beach or having been in the bush. My fantasy landscape is like a mountainous kind of environment. I really like that sort of deep foresty feeling, and you can feel we know that the way most of us live now, in staring at computer screens most of the day, being indoors, is not what was there for most of our ancestry. It's really recent that we actually live like that, and that state itself can be alarming to our nervous system. So even just looking around, orienting our eyes, looking further away, looking out the window, making an effort to look out the window, even if you are indoors, it helps our bodies calm down, because they actually feel like they're more in the environment that they've known for hundreds and thousands of years of our existence.
At the moment, we're not really supporting our pineal gland and the production of melatonin, because we expose ourselves to blue lights or very bright lights until a few seconds before going to sleep, or even when we are in bed. And most of the people, what they do as soon as they wake up, they check the phone just to see the time, or maybe they check social media, or they walk into the bathroom when it's still pitch black outside and they switch on the lights. So our primitive body is having a really hard time to adjust, and doesn't really know what to do on most occasions, which is why so many people are suffering from disrupted sleep and really low mood, sometimes depression and anxiety that comes obviously with disrupted sleep. And being in a state of sleep deprivation and high anxiety can make the recovery journey that much harder. So prioritizing a few minutes, even in the morning, and to expose our skin to the sun, to the natural sun, or even planting our feet to the ground can be such a wonderful way to start the day and setting ourselves up for success for the rest of the day. And maybe something that you can help me with this one, but you can plant your feet on the ground and then smell a beautiful essential oil before grabbing a coffee. So having that 5 minutes to simply breathe, connect with your body, connect with nature, and then go on with the rest of the day. And obviously, if you're living in an apartment in the middle of the city, it's going to be a little bit harder. But you, as you mentioned before, looking outside, watching at the sky, looking at the sun can really change things.
And even there's even research that shows having pictures of nature on the wall and having colors of nature, greens and blues in our home can be soothing, because again, our bodies are quite primitive. The way our brains can work is still quite primitive. So it's a trick, more or less. If we see a picture of trees, we kind of just understand it, that there's trees close to us, and that can be helpful as well if there are limited options available. But it's interesting, actually, speaking of my favorite essential oils, I really love like the hinterland, like pine fragrances and birch tree. There's a blend called Northern Escape that I really adore, and to me it brings me into a physiology of feeling like I'm deep in the mountains. Like it's cool, the ground is moist, I can smell the pine needles on the trees. It's just so inherently grounding.
There are a few yoga studios around the world that do actually have pictures of nature in the background, or sometimes they do have a movie showcasing nature on the background, and they do use aromatherapy to enhance the yoga experience. And unfortunately, we don't have one of those yoga studios readily available, and most people possibly don't, but that shows how important being in nature, slowing down, doing a yoga practice can be for a person's well-being. And I know that now we're coming already to the end of the conversation. Like, time with you always flies, Jacqueline. but shall we mention really quickly a couple of things that I definitely don't want to disregard? One is, of course, acupuncture. Lots of women, they ask me, is acupuncture going to be beneficial? And my short answer normally is yes, if you're doing the work, meaning acupuncture on its own is not going to make you pregnant. It's not going to get your period back. It's not going to recover. It's going to help you, but it's not going to allow you to recover from an eating disorder or hypothalamic amenorrhea. But it can be definitely beneficial, especially because it's an hour where a person has to lay down, doing nothing, and breathe. And is there anything else that you are thinking that you would like to mention?
Yeah, a few quick fire suggestions. I'm glad you mentioned acupuncture. EFT, or emotional freedom technique, is something really handy that would be good to talk about.
And I not mention it? Absolutely, yeah.
Can you speak to that a little, Claudia?
Yeah, no, please go for it. Go for it.
It's a technique that was developed from the acupuncture system, but rather than using needles, it's just using self-touch. And there are particular points you can learn. There are so many videos on YouTube, and you could find on Instagram to teach yourself quite quickly, but a series of points that you tap as you say an affirmation and validate your feelings. And it combines a few, there's a few reasons it's helpful that come together at once. One is simply, I think, that meditative awareness of taking yourself out of the moment, self-attunement, self-responsiveness, but the feeling of touch as well on these points that are associated with triggering particular responses in the nervous system can make a result happen from that more quickly than maybe just saying those words or taking a moment out for yourself.
Absolutely. So glad that you mentioned it, because EFT nowadays, it's used for many, many different things, especially managing anxiety is a big one, and also boosting self-esteem and sense of worth. So I think that it's a great adjunctive to all the things that we discussed. Now, if someone is listening to us, maybe thinking, oh, it's so good and well for you, Claudia and Jacqueline, to talk about all these things, but they can be pretty expensive. And the way that I see it is, of course, health is an investment, but also most of the things don't have to be done every single day, or you can also create a daily routine that takes only 5 minutes that can be done from home with very low or zero budget. And maybe then there are so many yoga classes that can also be done from home online without having to spend one single cent. And when it comes to acupuncture or massage, that could be something that could be done once a month. And there are so many collective places nowadays that are doing acupuncture and massage therapy for a very small fee. There are also many colleges, universities, they do offer acupuncture and massage for a very low cost, so people that can train on normal or real person. So the reality is that the only thing coming in between you and getting better is actually committing to the journey, and there is always a way around them. Is there anything else that you would like to share on this particular topic, Jacqueline?
Yeah, that's very well said. I used to do that. I used to go to a natural health a college and volunteer to be the person they practice massage on. It's a great idea. Or have you can have consultations, like people training in all sorts of disciplines that maybe if you want to invest in something longer term, then that's wonderful to graduate to. But if that's your only option, it means you're getting some feedback, you're getting something that's helpful, and that's usually free. Or as you said, everything we mentioned virtually is available on YouTube for free, that you can start. And if you start to find it helpful, it might also reinforce the value in investing further.
Absolutely. Like this video, for example, and especially video number 1, you can definitely work with Jacqueline to find out if essential oils can be beneficial for you. But if you're not ready to take that step, you can find videos like this one that teach you which kind of essential oils to look for, and which kind of brands and flavors to pick from in the beginning. Once again, thank you so much, Jacqueline, for being here today, for sharing your wealth of knowledge. And we are going to see you next month.
Can't wait, Claudia. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.